Okay, so let's tie what we've been talking about back into meter and something new called meter signature. So you're going to need to write down meter signature in your music notes. Now, you also need to know that another common name for meter signature is time signature, okay? And a meter signature or time signature are two numbers that are stacked on top of each other that are found usually at the beginning of a song. At the beginning of a song, you will always have a meter signature or a time signature, okay? Now, every once in a while, if your meter changes, like I referenced in the previous video, you might have an additional meter later on in the song. But they're two numbers stacked on top of each other. It might look something like this, or even this, okay? And this takes us back to meter. What happens in a meter signature is you have two numbers, the top number and the bottom number. The top number tells us the meter of the song. So right now, we're looking at the top number in these different meter signatures. So this meter, 3/4 meter, is telling us that we're in meter in 3 and that there are going to be 3 beats in every measure, okay? If you see a meter signature that's 2/4, that's meter in 2, and there will be 2 beats in every measure of that song. And each measure can only contain 2 beats. If you see a meter signature that's 4/4, that's meter in 4, and there can only be 4 beats in every measure, and no more. So that is what I mean when I talk about meter signature and meter. You can only put a certain number of music notes, music rests in a measure depending on the meter signature, okay? So the top number in a meter signature tells us the number of beats in every measure. Or the meter of a song. Okay? The bottom number does something different. The bottom number, and you'll notice in all 3 examples, in the triple, the duple, and the quadruple meter, or meter in 3, meter in 2, meter in 4, you'll notice that the bottom number is all the same. In every one of these, the bottom number is 4, okay? The bottom number in a meter signature tells us what kind of a note gets the beat or gets 1 beat. And because I'm writing this on the board, this is information that you need to write in your music binder. Again, we've had this on the board for the past several days. This is new, meter signature. So you need to make sure that you write this in your music binder. If you want to go ahead and pause the video so that you can write it in your notes, please go ahead and do that, okay? So the top number is the number of beats in every measure, or the meter, which is our definition, our second definition up here. And the bottom number tells us what kind of note gets the beat. These are what we call the most common meter signatures in music, or the simple meters in music, okay? And they all have the 4 on the bottom. Now, it's possible that at some point you might see music with an 8 on the bottom. You might see music with a 12 on the bottom. You know, there are different kinds of meters that you might see, okay? But we are just going to focus in on the simple ones that are the most common for our purposes, which is the 4 on the bottom. Whenever you see that 4 on the bottom, that 4 is standing for a note called the quarter note. Now, in elementary school, you may have called this a ta, but in middle school, we call it a quarter note. And what it's doing is it's telling us that the quarter note is getting how many beats? That it's getting 1 beat, okay? So the quarter note is getting 1 beat in this meter signature, in this meter signature, and in this meter signature, okay? So what we're going to do, like I said, if you haven't written this down, you're gonna pause it right now, get caught up on these notes, and then unpause it and continue on. What I'm gonna show you right now is I found a video online that I really like about meter, and it reviews and re-emphasizes everything we've been talking about, okay? So this, Mr. Henry is his name. He has recorded this really cool video explaining meter, and he really talks about it in the terms of dragon bellies. Like if you had a dragon, and you'll have to excuse my drawing here. Okay, if we had a dragon, okay, and he had, let's say, 4 bellies, he's referring to the bellies in terms of measures. Remember when we talked about measures? That this is a measure, and this is a measure. So you're gonna see this in the video that you talk about, okay? And he's gonna talk to you about meter in terms of 2/4, or it might be 4/4, or 3/4, okay? Now, remember the top number doesn't tell us how many measures or bellies that we have. It tells us how many beats each measure will hold, okay? So, in order to watch this video and understand it, you're gonna need to write down this key, because you kind of need to know what some music notes and rests are worth. Music notes and rests are worth a different number of beats, okay? And so this is the key, and I want you to copy this down so you can look at it. Now, when we get into Unit 2, we're gonna really talk more in depth about what music notes and music rests are and how much they're worth. Right now, I just want you to look at these symbols and see how much they're worth, and that is gonna be helpful in understanding this video, okay? Now, this isn't anything right now that you need to memorize. In the future, you will. And I'll explain it more in depth then, like I just said. But right now, you need to know that this kind of note gets 4 beats. This kind of note gets 2 beats. This note gets 1 beat. Okay? We have a whole note, a half note, and a quarter note. And like I said, we'll go over this more in depth in the next unit. If you see a pair of music notes that look like this, together they're worth 1 beat, where each one is a half. You've done fractions before, a half plus a half is a whole. So these are music notes. Some music rests that you might come across is this one that looks like kind of a top hat upside down. It's also gonna get 4 beats, but it's 4 beats of silence, because that's what rests are. Notes show sound, rests show silence. You might see the opposite of that looks like a true top hat on someone's head. That rest is also gonna get 2 beats, okay? But remember, this note gets 2 beats of sound, this note gets 2 beats of silence. Same thing here, 4 beats of sound, 4 beats of silence. And then you might also see this fancy rest that looks like a Z with a C on the bottom. It's gonna get 1 beat of silence, just like this note gets 1 beat of sound. So this is the key that's gonna help you understand this coming video. Now, if you need to copy this down, or actually please copy this down, pause the video and copy these. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and erase this. And in this video, Mr. Henry is going to ask you to take out a piece of paper. You can do that in your paper where you're taking notes. And he's going to ask that you draw measures whether he says to do 3 or 4, but I'm going to do 4 here. And I'm going to put my meter signature at the beginning. I'm going to say this is 4-4. He may be asking you to do it in 2-4. I can't remember. But I'm going to put my meter signature at the beginning. And remember from when we talked about measures, from here to here is a measure, because there's our bar line. From here to here is a measure. There's our bar line. From here to here is a measure. And from here to here is a measure. Now at the end, I'm actually going to put a double bar line, because if you watched the video yesterday, then you know that the double bar line means it's the end, okay? So here are our measures. We've got 4 measures, and you're going to write in some notes to indicate 4 beats in every measure. Now if you go back to the key that you wrote down, you can choose numbers and rest as long as every measure adds up to the magic meter number, which is 4. So in this first measure, I could put that kind of a note. And remember, it gets a total of 4 beats. I can't put anything else in this measure because that equals 4. In the next measure, I'm going to put this kind of a note, which gets 2 beats. And then I'm going to put each 2 more of these notes. And what happens is, when I add those together, 2 plus 1 plus 1 equals 4. I can only put 4 beats in every measure, 4 beats worth. So you have to add up how much these notes and rests are worth. If I did this kind of a rest, remember it only gets 2 beats. That does not fill up the measure. I've got 2 more beats to fill up. So I'm going to add something that's worth 2 beats. So 2 plus 2 is 4. And in the end, I'm going to end up with 4 notes because each one of these is worth 1 beat. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 4. However, keep in mind that if this number changed to 3, all of these measures would have too many notes and rests in them, so we would have to shrink them down so that there's only 3 beats in a measure. So here, we couldn't put a whole note in there. We could put a quarter note, or one of these, which is 1 beat, and we could put one of these, which is 2 beats. So now we have 1 plus 2 is 3. Here, we could do the same thing, flip those notes, but we'd have to take that note out. Remember, we're all adding up to 3 now. 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 1 is 3. Here we have 2, a half rest, which is 2 beats. I'm going to have to shrink that down to something that's only worth 1 beat. I'm going to choose that rest, which is 1 beat. And then here, to shrink it down to 3, I just have to take 1 away. So that's how meter works. It's the number of beats in every measure, okay? Now I know I ran through this really fast, but look at your key, watch the video on the dragons. And actually, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you watch that video. It's like a 20-minute video. I think I'm going to have you watch it tomorrow because I think I put enough videos on today that you're going to have about 15 minutes of watching, okay? So watch this video, understand it's an introduction for the next video, which you can go ahead and watch or you can wait to watch. But it's going to explain meter for us. So that is understanding meter in music and meter signature and how that plays a role in what we look at, why measures are important, and bar lines. And don't forget, if you watch the video, if I were to add 2 dots here, instead of it being a double bar line, it now becomes a repeat sign, okay? And repeat just means you're going to go back and you're going to do it again. Okay, so I hope that this is making sense. If there's something that you're not understanding, shoot me a message so that I can make sure that we're on the same page.